Good morning, watch nerds. I believe any true watch enthusiast should attempt to be as diverse as possible, open his eyes to what's out there and take no notice to what other people think. Most of my watches are divers or Garda watches, although I do have some GMTs, a few field watches, 2 pilot watches, a dress watch and even a marine watch. Today I'll be giving you a short review of 2 inexpensive watches I've recently bought and added to my collection. Now this is my vintage Seiko King Quartz, but it's with a twist. You may be forgiven for thinking this is one of the prettiest watches ever made. You may be forgiven for remembering a previous video when I said I would buy another Seiko. And you may be forgiven for picking up on the fact that I headed this video by describing the watch as a King Seiko Quartz when the dial indicates it's a Seiko Type 2. This is the watch with the correct dial. I think you'll agree there actually isn't that much difference. I purchased this from an eBay seller who appears to specialise in vintage watches. The case and the movement are from a King Seiko, but for some strange reason the dial has been replaced with a Seiko Type 2. This of course reduces the value of the watch, but from an aesthetical point of view it makes little difference. As this wasn't purchased as an investment, and I'm a tight sod, I took advantage of a great price after negotiation and I just bought it. On arrival I was delighted with the condition, bearing in mind it's nearly 50 years old of course, but initially disappointed it didn't have a sapphire crystal as described. As it happens, it wasn't meant to have a sapphire crystal when it was new, so I forgave the seller and moved on. Anyway, thanks to Jane who sold me this watch. The communication and dispatch time was excellent. Now Jane's eBay name is Shine Scout, if anybody's interested. You may ask, why I'm reviewing watches you can't actually buy? Well, that isn't strictly true. There are loads of vintage Seikos around, and unless you want to, you don't have to spend a fortune. In fact, I would argue that the old ones are far better value than the new ones, which I don't think represent very good value at all. So I'll quickly take you over the watch. Firstly, this one was made in 1976. The case measures 36mm, the lug width is 18mm, the lug to lug is 41mm, and the depth is 13.5mm, but that includes a very boxed mineral crystal, which I suspect isn't the original because it's totally scratch free. Now on this aftermarket Bambi bracelet it weighs 79 grams. On the subject of bracelets, I've no idea what happened to the original one, but there'll be relatively few watches around of this year that do have stock bracelets, and this one's really nice. The movement's one of Seiko's high-end quartz movements of the day, and it's the 4823. These have a stated accuracy of plus minus 10 seconds per month, although this one actually runs a few seconds a day fast, but that's something I can live with. The dial is simple, but in my opinion both classic and quite stunning, even though as stated it's not actually the original dial. As you can see there's a frame date window at 3 o'clock, giving the date in classic numerals and the day in either kanji or English. To be honest, I'm not actually sure how that works, so let me know if you do. The rest of the dial pretty much speaks for itself. And as you would expect, there is no loom. Now the top of the watch is brushed and the dual faceted sides are polished. I'm guessing at some stage it's been repolished. As for a watch of about 50 years, it's actually in fantastic condition. You will notice now it's turned over that the battery can actually be changed without taking the back off, and I wonder why all quartz watches aren't like that. I believe the back is removed by pressing something in this little hole, but I don't intend to remove it anyway. Stamped on the back it gives some basic information, such as the model number and made in Japan, which not all Seikos were or are. As a matter of interest, this is water resistant. I don't know by how much and I don't intend to find out. Anyway, that's the King Seiko. Well, sort of. Now this watch is from October 1979 and it's a JDM model, which means Japanese domestic market, so at some point somebody's imported it. Now according to the listing, it was Seiko's first diver, and it's also been used as a mountaineering watch. So I'll quickly take you over the dimensions, which are a little bit different to the Seiko King Quartz. The case is just under 36mm, the lug width is 17mm, the lug to lug is 40mm, and the depth including this mineral crystal is just 9mm. On this bracelet, it weighs about 55 grams. Inside is the 7121 quartz movement, which again was one of their higher end movements and produced up until 1980. Apparently it's accurate up to about plus minus 15 seconds per month, but I've no idea how long the battery is meant to last. This is running absolutely spot on, which is incredible after all this time. This has got a brushed blue dial, although in most lights it looks black. Under the 12 o'clock it reads Seiko Quartz, and above the 6 o'clock is that brilliant Seiko logo, and printed is silver wave. Like the King Seiko, it's got a simple but classic dial. Now even though it's a dive watch, it doesn't have any lume, however it does have a screw down case back and a screw down crown. That said, it's only got 30 metres of water resistance, so unless you're diving in a puddle, it's not going to be much good as a dive watch. The mineral crystal and the case are in absolutely fantastic condition, and I'm sure this has got to be one of the best examples around. Now this is the bracelet it came on, which is vintage, but I don't actually think it's the original. Unfortunately I can't use it though because the folded link pins are totally jammed in, so I can't actually adjust it to wear it. Now I do have an aftermarket bracelet on the way, so sooner or later I'll get to wear it. So that more or less covers these two watches. Now by today's standards I suppose they're quite basic. That said, if these movements were still produced, they'd still be considered pretty good to be honest. What you do get with watches like this is some great aesthetics and a piece of history. So that brings me to the end of this short review, and I hope you've enjoyed watching something just a little bit different. If you have, please click on the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, leave your comments below, and enjoy the rest of your day.